Is there intelligent life in space? Last week we discovered that we are not alone. With this film, the door to the universe opens for every Martian. First films of our successful Earth shot from the cameras on our orbiting spaceship. Despite the poisonous oxygen-laden atmosphere, signs of a civilization. And then the big news. There is life on Earth. Although no landing was attempted on this trip, it's obvious we've got a lot to learn from the Earthling. Now, first close-up shots of that Earthling. Here we see him at dinner, a carefully regulated meal, after which he takes shelter for the night. He needs his rest. As you will see, it's going to be a busy day. For most Earthlings, it appears to be all play and no work. Anything that stands in the way of the smooth, fast life is not tolerated for long. Loud honking and squawking brings a worker on the double. Each day, the Earthling proceeds to prearranged gathering places. At first, our scientists were puzzled by this stately procession. The simple reason, they enjoy each other's company and have an almost compulsive desire to play elaborate games together. Occasionally, they stop to chat, but any lag in games and dancing brings a sharp response from briskly efficient social directors who never leave their posts. Furious fun and exhaustion. There's a steady run on spas and medical centers. Nor is the mind neglected. Education is everywhere. He spends a lot of time browsing in curiously designed libraries. Often connected to such libraries are audio-visual centers. From every angle and by every means, the Earthling is being conditioned. What is he learning? What is his ultimate purpose? It is here, in this retirement park, that the meaning of his joyous celebrations and feverish education becomes clear. The mature individual is now ready to make his essential contribution to his civilization. He instructs a worker to prepare him for his last act. He is now in proper shape to reproduce. Earthlings have done away with the stresses and untidiness of sex. The reproductive process takes place in 3 or 4 huge breeding centers. Although this process is shrouded in secrecy, our scientists believe that it must go something like this.
"7 years into the new millennium, the most powerful nation on Earth wrestles with its problems. Nearly 300 million Americans tax an aging infrastructure. 250 million vehicles of every description elbow for space on our highways. Environmental concerns of the 1990s have become 21st century priorities.
And yet, incredibly, reliance on the automobile throughout most of North America not only continues, it accelerates, except where logic prevailed. On the Florida Peninsula, the Florida Overland Express sprints along the eastern edge of a rejuvenated Everglades. The Fox, the nation's first high-speed rail system. Barely 30 minutes out of its modern passenger terminal within the Miami Airport complex, the Fox will arrive in Orlando an hour from now. Less than 60 minutes from its Orlando departure, the Fox will breathe the still morning air of Tampa. Among the 300 passengers, business travelers, families, students, and tourists, some are just along for the ride. For them, the Florida Overland Express is the destination. The history of Florida's high-speed rail system has been well documented. Before the turn of the century, in the 1990s, the Florida Department of Transportation presented an innovative plan to make the system a reality. The idea was to create a long-term partnership with the private sector to establish an easily expandable, practical, maintainable, appreciating asset, a safe, comfortable system to immediately connect Miami, Orlando, and Tampa, and soon after, Jacksonville. Eventually, other business, tourism, and population centers would be included. It was to be an efficient system, publicly owned, privately built, and operated. The private sector partner was chosen, It was the Florida Overland Express Group, a consortium comprised of 4 of the most respected names in transportation, construction, program management, and infrastructure. There was Fluor Daniel, the largest publicly traded engineering and construction company in the United States, with unquestioned worldwide management and maintenance capabilities. They were responsible for Miami's Metromover and more than 290 other significant projects throughout the state of Florida. There was Odebrecht Contractors of Florida, civil construction experts in 21 countries on 4 continents, responsible for the expansion of Dade County's mammoth Golden Glades interchange, one of the largest and most complex interchanges in the world. There was Bombardier, a world-class manufacturer of transportation equipment and the largest provider of rail cars in North America. It was Bombardier that manufactured and supplied rail cars for the newly expanded Tri-Rail and the Tampa Airport People Mover. And there was Jacques Alstom, an internationally acknowledged leader in the field of energy and rail transport, developer of proven TGV train technology, utilized in creating the fastest...
Alrighty everyone, here we are. We are live. Hello everyone, and welcome aboard. Okay, YouTube tried to shut us down there because I was trying to show a video there, and apparently it was some sort of copyright from basically Canada's version of PBS, the National Film Board. Really, Canada? Really? No, more like really, YouTube. Okay. Alright, well, just won't show it, but anyway. Yeah, what a whole bunch of BS. Hello everyone, I hope you all can hear me loud and clear, but not too loud. Hopefully YouTube doesn't try to shut our train down again. Jeez. Rude, YouTube, rude. This is why you suck now. Okay? I mean, I would move to Odyssey or whatever other place at this point, but YouTube, I mean, the only reason I'm on YouTube is because everybody's here and we're all too lazy to move. Let's be honest. Alright, so let me just go ahead and start the stage over here on Discord and get that going over here. Alright, Arc Stream. Here we go. So welcome aboard everyone. Yep, I'm here. We're all here. You can all see. So yeah, we're going to be talking a lot about, yeah, Canadians, am I right? Aw, shite. Yes, indeed. We'll blame the Canadians. That's what we'll do. We'll blame the Canadians for shutting down our stream. But for context, for those of you who are just tuning in, for those of you who are tuning in before and did not know what was going on, it is a cartoon I was showing is called What on Earth, which basically shows the Earth being consumed by cars. Martians are looking down on Earth trying to see what sort of inhabitants are on the Earth, if there is life on Earth, and indeed there is, and they mistake the life on Earth to be the automobile. That's how much, even in the 60s, you know, some people were already seeing that cities were being destroyed in because we were making it look for, you know, for the automobile. Yes. Yeah, blame Canada. That's I think a South Park reference. But speaking of car culture and speaking of suburbs, last stream, someone who came on Discord said that the government ruined our previous world-class passenger infrastructure. And technically, that's true. However, the government was the vehicle used to destroy that in lieu of highways and airlines and what you were kind of seeing before that, you know, YouTube shut down the cartoon. The driver and special interest behind the wheel of the vehicle being government in this case, was none other than General Motors, GM, and some other companies, special interests, and Firestone, etc., right? So it's not, you know, the government is bad or the private companies are bad. No, it's bad government and bad companies are bad. Put simply. Speaking of bad, not you know, entirely bad or whatever, this infrastructure bill. Let's look into this. So breaking news just today, in the last several hours, the Senate passed to now vote on the infrastructure bill. So last week we covered the news that the Senate voted to debate the infrastructure bill. Now they are voting to vote on the bill. This is American government, guys. Yeah, this is what it is. So yes, the Invest Act. Let's go on to about the Invest Act here. So they're voting on it. I was looking at the proceeding today, and if there was anything interesting coming about, if they were actually going to vote on it today, I was going to cover that live. whether we have this or not. However, they didn't go into that. They went ahead and voted on a district judge. They had some back and forth about the bill, about the Treasury, which doesn't exist anymore in the United States. In terms of, if we even have any money left in there at this point, let's be honest. We're past $30 trillion in debt. Better than nothing. This bill is better than nothing. Well, is it honestly better than nothing? Is this what we're looking forward to now in the United States? Like I said in the video earlier today, is better than nothing really what we're capable of? Of course, there's a lot more that we can do, and this is not just the only bill that's up for grabs. Once this bill is voted upon, according to the Biden administration, there's a much larger $3 trillion infrastructure bill. And I say infrastructure in air quotes because it's technically not infrastructure. It's a lot more of just the same thing that we saw in the last iteration of this bill, or the first iteration of it, the Biden infrastructure bill, which is basically giving money to boomers and all that type of stuff. Basically, human infrastructure, as if infrastructure isn't for humanity. It really is quite annoying to look at this, but hey, let's go ahead and look at this, everyone. So yes, one victory at a time. If this is even counts as a victory, there's a lot of stuff in the bill I don't agree with. In terms of, for example, having breathalyzers in cars to check if people are not inebriated in order to drive a vehicle. Which, speaking of alcohol, today we're going to try out. Well, not try out. This is actually one of my favorites. I have had these for quite some time, and they're really hard to get by here in the United States. But luckily, our local liquor store has a good selection of craft beers that you're going to find all over the world. So we're trying Iron Maiden's Trooper. Okay, this is actually my favorite recent beer. It's an English ale. It's an actual proper British ale. So we'll be doing that because, yes, it's about one of my favorite Iron Maiden songs, The Trooper. Of course, I'm a big 80s rock fan. But yeah, we're going into battle with our inevitable death, I guess. I don't know. Not to say that the country is done and over with at all. That's not at all what I'm saying. But it's just futile about this bill because, again, the other part about this bill is that it has to go into the House, right? The House has passed a similar bill before, which has a lot more provisions, a lot more money put in place for it. So once it passes through the Senate, if it passes through the Senate, which most likely if the vote was 67 to 27, that means it's going to pass the Senate and then go into the House. So that's adding on another point of contention over here. So yeah, this is what we're looking at right now. Look at the McConnell trying to get up the steps. If you could take off the turtle shell on his back, and then you have someone who thinks she's actually likable. I beat on everybody over here. No one gets out of here unscathed. Everyone gets beat on. Paresh, I don't drink beer, period. Yes, that's a good thing. If you're a truck driver, yeah, you shouldn't be drinking beer, and we live in the world of wisdom. True. It's not wrong to go ahead and drink, every once in a while, especially on Saturday. It's my cheat day. Okay, worked out all week. Give me a break. Best chances to go private sector. I agree with that, Brutus Tan. It's just hard that these United States, we've had large public and private infrastructure projects, and this is what we're doing on. Okay, so let's go into this, and then we'll keep going, and then I'll answer a couple questions that I see here in the comments below. Let's try to keep this stream tighter and shorter. I have less articles today, and probably we're going to have one call-in session at the 45-minute hour. So we'll try to make everything as quick as possible here so we can all have a nice stream and have a good time. So I'm doing that. Update on Brightline. There is nothing much to update on Brightline. I will come up with a Brightline update pretty soon. I will be going to Florida shortly to go ahead and check out what's going on over there. So we'll see. We will see. So the Senate Democrats across the political spectrum seem near the unanimity that they'll need for the first crucial step toward the $3.5 trillion vision of bolstering healthcare, education, family service, and environment programs. So now they're being actually honest here and saying that's not actually infrastructure. It's healthcare, education, family services, and environment programs. Which, by the way, if you want to help the environment, why don't we just put that on an infrastructure bill, right? So this came out, and everything again. The backing of every Democrat in the 50-50 Senate, plus the tie-breaking vote of Vice President Kamala Harris, will be needed to approve the budget over likely solid Republican opposition, right? So they're trying to push this part 2 of this infrastructure fiasco bill after this bill gets through. So we looked at the first bill, right? For those of you who haven't seen today's video that came out, the 5-minute video that came out today, 1,935 pages of this ridiculously long bill, which, again, that's going to be my next catchphrase again, I guess. But when you look at it, especially at Title II for public transportation, and then you go into Amtrak. Let me see. Let's look up Amtrak over here, because I thought I saw Amtrak. Yeah, Amtrak is part of Title II. Amtrak reforms. They basically go into reforming what Amtrak is supposed to do. Okay, when Amtrak was first initiated back in 1971 in the Rail Passenger Act, okay, they're just restating this all over again. Amtrak findings, mission and goals, Amtrak status, board of directors, Amtrak preference, enforcement, use of facilities, providing services to Amtrak, prohibition on mandatory arbitration, Amtrak ADA assessment, prohibition on smoking on Amtrak trains, which means no more people going on there and vaping on trains. Vaping is not even real smoking. Vaping is annoying. That's my comment on it. Drinks are A-okay on Amtrak. Amtrak food and beverage, clarification on Amtrak contracting out, Amtrak staffing, special transportation, disaster and emergency relief program, access to recreational trails. So a whole bunch of this stuff, right? So when you look at now the bigger plan, this plan just got fatter. 2,702 pages. It's just getting bigger and bigger and bigger, right? And most of the stuff for transit, a lot of it is mostly going to go to buses. Some of it is going to go to some current rail transportation, heavy rail transportation, metro transportation, etc. But again, there's a lot of stuff in this bill. You see, there's stuff here about Indian affairs, right? I don't know. Are we still calling them Indians now? Are we calling them native tribes or First Peoples? What are we calling them here in the United States? I don't know. I guess they're going to remake or reprint Tom Sawyer, and they're going to call him First Peoples Joe. For those of you who read Tom Sawyer at this point, unbelievable. I mean, there's a lot of stuff here that really shouldn't be part of an infrastructure bill. I know some people who I've talked to who disagree with that. But let's be honest. I mean, if we can only have a bill that's only 50 pages and it concentrates on just one thing, okay, one thing. We can have a bill just on highways. We can have a bill just on sewage. We can have a bill just on high-speed internet, okay? And we can have a bill just on rail. If we could just split that down, it'd be a lot easier instead of pushing 2,702 pages to keep pushing this. All right. So again, it goes into Amtrak reforms. Again, the same thing that we saw: Amtrak's finding, mission, and goals, composition of Amtrak's board of directors, restating what Amtrak's goals and charter is supposed to be. They're basically remaking Amtrak in a sense. It's really it's just ways to just find out how this so to just pad this out. So let's go into here section 22.201. So let's go ahead 2201 so you guys can see how this is. So here we are. Okay. Well, thankfully it's double spaced and the margins are pretty thin. So I mean, in reality, it's like really 700 pages if you want to look at it that way. But let's be honest, there's no need for it to be even this big, period. It's just ridiculous. So here we are, findings, section 24101A of Title 49 United States Code is amended. So they're amending Amtrak. They're to sort of shorten up what things are going in the bill. They're basically saying that Amtrak now doesn't need to be as focused on making a profit. Because when Amtrak was first made in 1971, the United States government made it on the initial basis that rail transportation was in its death throes. Amtrak would just be there to hold on for it for about 5 more years, and then everything would go to the automobile and to airlines, and that would be the end for passenger rail transportation. They were sadly, gladly, they were very wrong, but they were sadly wrong that Amtrak actually had a need and passenger rail had a need in this country. Because the rest of the world went to passenger rail. The rest of the world saw the need for this. We saw this in Japan too. Even Japan with the Shinkansen, with the advent of the Shinkansen. The Japanese government, a lot of people, Japanese politics and critics saw the same thing. They thought there was no need for the Shinkansen because, we're going into the jet age and everybody's going to have a car. There's going to be no need for trains. Trains are 100, 200-year-old technology. There's no need for trains. Well, they were very, very wrong about that too. The Shinkansens take a heck of a lot more people. They've taken up a total of 9 billion passengers, if not closing in on 10 billion passengers. Too bad we're going through this pandemic, because we would have seen how much the Shinkansen would have been able to take at really max peak capacity at this point. It's really quite sad that all this has happened, and we would have been able to see the maglev too. But yeah, this is what we're looking at here. So again, more Amtrak reforms on here. Again, you guys can see this. I should have it in there. Gustavo, let's vote and then we can read the 1,000 pages. Yeah, let's open up the bill and then we can see what's in it. It's a surprise, as Nancy Pelosi would say. Yeah, it's really it's really insane that this is in here. Again, some other things that are in the bill that some senators today have railed against. Some things add in there a gas tax. So, I mean, you already have a gas tax available, but now per mile. So let's say you're a poor Uber driver. You've already lost your job during the pandemic. The only thing you have left to do is Uber driving or delivery driving, which a lot of people are delivery driving now because restaurants have been closed down or you can't go into restaurants. And with this whole Delta variant coming out again, we're in COVID forever. So don't worry, we'll go down the whole Greek alphabet until they figure out that, they can just have COVID forever. Whichever way you guys think of it, because I know some people here think that COVID is very real. Some people think here that COVID's a scam. That's not my bid to go ahead and talk about. We're just looking at the reality, and the reality is that the lockdowns are coming again. So you can have a Daft Punk song about that one more time. They're going to close down everything. So, again, the composition of Amtrak's board of directors, and some other things that are in this bill that are not rail-related. The other thing, like I said, putting breathalyzers in cars and all that type of stuff. It's kind of ridiculous that this is all in this bill. So, yeah, like we said in here, we're not going to go much into it. They just added more words, more fluff to make it look as that they're actually doing something. So if you want to go ahead, high-speed train noise emissions. That's one thing. If you guys want me to look up something specific in the bill, let me know, and I'll go ahead and Control F through it. High-speed broadband. Use of funds, grant funds awarded pursuant to the subsection shall be used for basic and apply. Yeah, so they're saying, funds in this bill can be used for urban commuter rail, intercity high-speed, freight rail transportation, etc. That's basically for infrastructure, physical infrastructure upgrades. Safety regulations and evaluations. So that's really all the stuff that we're going into. All right, it's really tiring, it's frustrating, and it's not really that nothing really much to look into. But that's what we're going into now on the bill. I don't really want to look into it here. as much because there's really not much that has changed except that now it's going into the next step. But the White House has a good summary of it, a much better summary of it. Again, the largest federal investment in public transit ever. That's not true. We've had bigger. Well, it's true that it's the largest federal investment in this period, yes, because there really wasn't a need for larger federal investment back in the day. A lot of it was either done through private funding or state funding or local funding. Makes the largest federal investment in passenger rail since the creation of Amtrak, that's true. Makes the single largest dedicated bridge investment since the construction of the interstate highway system. Again, notice how they're saying bridge, because a lot of the stuff is rural bridges that they're looking into, because a lot of these bridges, especially in more rural areas, are falling apart. I mean, you can put a pencil in some of these, in some of the areas in concrete between the rebar, and you'll start poking holes right through it. Don't actually do that. You may cause a terrible accident. Makes the largest investment in clean drinking water, wastewater infrastructure. Ensures every American has access to high-speed internet, reliable high-speed internet. Helps us tackle the climate crisis by making the largest investment in clean energy transmission and EV infrastructure in history. Electrifying thousands of school and transit buses across the country, creating a new grid deployment authority to build resilient, clean 21st century electric grid. Look, if you could just have, instead of having, again, cars and putting people in cars are not going to solve that issue. It's not going to solve the issue that you want to give people another form of transportation. So this isn't going nearly as forward as we wanted to in terms of we want to just have just a transit bill. All right? If you really want to make a tackle in cleaning the environment, then most of this should be put into not only just fixing the roads that we have, and yes, we should fix the roads that we have first, getting rid of some redundant highways, because there's some highways that shouldn't be existing, and what they're doing is causing more traffic within cities and causing more urban blight. What they should be doing is, like, again, getting rid of some highways that are redundant, fixing the roads that we have, and investing more into public transportation, passenger rail transportation, high-speed rail passenger transportation, etc. Right? That would make more sense. Okay. And I know we talked about Suburbs last time. We talked about Suburbs because a lot of you guys were and some of you guys did think that what I was saying about Suburbs wasn't correct. So I put out on the community. I'm going to start utilizing that more. About 4 days ago. And don't worry, last Sunday's live stream will come back, but I put this out here so you can see. I do recommend you guys see this. I've been following Not Just Bikes for a while, but he put out several months ago. He started the series about introduction to strong towns and financially insolvent America. So it's called the Strong Town series. By the way, it's a good book to read. Strong Towns. For those of you who want something to read on infrastructure and about America's problems with our suburb systems. So I've said this. I made the statement that suburbs are a very large factor, if not the largest contributing factor to the destruction of American cities, towns, communities, infrastructure, health, jobs, factories, productive rural land, and morals. To get you started down the rabbit hole, Not Just Bikes made a fantastic series based on the Strong Towns book by Charles Marone, which I strongly recommend. And I do have the book. Everything's a mess over here. I'm not going to get up to go ahead and find it right now. There's at least, that's not the only bookshelf I have. There's at least 5 other bookshelves within this house. This house is held up by bookshelves. The Homeowners Association is the reason why suburbia is the way it is. Get rid of that and the problem is solved. Well, the Homeowners Association is because of suburbia. You make it that way. But let me put this, and I will reiterate this. In short, suburbs are a destructive, subversive, unnatural, and frankly un-American invention. In contrast to the traditional way cities were built and have existed for thousands of years in the Old World and the Americas, mainly the US and Canada, the suburban experiment has failed in less than a few generations. These are harsh words to explain an ever-present harsher reality, and frankly, the harsher perspective of seeing our nation and its people crumble and fail further and further from its previous splendor. Suburbs are why we are poor, why we don't have a world-class passenger rail system, why there is a lack of affordable housing, why our environment is faltering and climate change is taking hold, why crime is rampant, why we are spiraling debt, why our cities are derelict. That was a typo I made there, my apologies. Why NIMBYism and keeping up with the Joneses has overcome loving thy neighbor and being happy with what you have, and why the American family, the bulwark of any nation, is crumbling. This goes way beyond just rail transportation, the steel spine of our country, but the moral fabric and definition of who we are as Americans. Suburbs are not American. All right, so that is my statement on Suburbs. I'm not going to say anything else here on this stream about Suburbs. You guys can go ahead and watch this because there's a whole ton of other videos out there about Suburbs. But I think if I wanted to introduce somebody or anybody to the reason why Suburbs are such a disaster, this is the video on. There was another video that was on there before, but Not Just Bikes took it to one step further. I may have him on a later stream. He's over in the Netherlands now because he decided to just leave the United States, him and his wife, and just go live in the Netherlands. And the Netherlands had something similar to the United States because they were following in the United States' footsteps of just they suburbanized everything. They cleared out canals to make highways where there used to be water flowing through. They just completely dredged them and made highways through that. In the last several decades, they actually saw what was going to happen. They're like, let's reverse that. So they reversed everything and started making towns and cities for people again. Okay, make cities for people again, right? That's what we're on about. All right. So let's see some of the comments over here, and then we're gonna go into the next thing. And this is the reason, the main topic of this before the bill went ahead and messed up everything. The main topic of today's stream. Yes, I know, 30 minutes into the stream after YouTube tried shutting us down, right? The main topic of this stream is the shortages that we are seeing, and we are going to see more of the shortages, especially with the prospect of another shutdown. Now, looking at China was the first country to shut down during the pandemic, right? Wow, man, it was last year when I was talking about this, back in February of last year. I was one of the first people to bring it up on YouTube here on the channel. While everybody was saying it's just a flu. Remember that? So remember that when the media starts going on about this, they were the ones saying it's just a flu. There's no reason to talk about it. You don't need masks, all that stuff. Yeah. What happened to that? So, regardless of any of that, the reality is that when you shut down the economy, you shut down a supply chain, and that creates shortages. Okay? Because now you have everything backed up. When you reopen, there's increased demand, or you completely disrupt the supply chain that was running pretty smoothly for a good while, for months or years, and they have, some sort of rhythm to it. Once you go ahead and disrupt that, it really messes up everything in the supply chain, okay? And we see this in things like, even before the pandemic, there were shortages of things. I keep bringing up PS5s and Xboxes, right? Okay, because, we're all millennials. We all love playing video games. But that's something, it's a large consumer electronic that has a lot of demand, and they still have not met, the supply has still not kept up to the demand of it. Okay? Which is why now a lot of what used to be PS5 exclusives are now going to the PS4, because Sony and Microsoft know that if they want to make billions of dollars, because it's a billion-dollar industry, okay, guys, video games are more profitable now than movies, or if they're not now, they're going to be within this decade. Hollywood is going down the gutter. It's done with. It's over. People are getting sick and tired of the movie industry, and you can see the movies they're coming out with now. They're these low-budget, crappy movies. So, regardless. The supply chain is really going to hurt from this. From coleslaw to semiconductors, America's shortages are worsening with no resolution in sight. And this is the problem when you shut down without any plan. What happened to 2 weeks? Two weeks to slow the spread has turned into almost 2 years. Okay? You cannot keep doing this. Okay? We cannot keep doing this. Okay? doesn't matter the solution, whether everybody just goes out, stands vaccine, or if everybody gets vaxxed or anything like that. The problem is that if we keep shutting down, and I've said this about rail infrastructure, okay? I said this in the video about Joe Biden's plan for rail, about Amtrak Joe, okay? America's transit rail, passenger rails, have not caught up yet. And they're still far behind from what their pre-pandemic levels of ridership were. They're very far back. And it's not going to get there until people start getting back to work, until people start having work. Okay? That's what's really probable. No, they are profitable than movies. Are you saying that they're more profitable than movies now, Mr. Game Utopia? I know there's several games that do make more money than movies. I mean, Call of Duty is probably the biggest franchise for that. I mean, Fortnite makes more money than some movie studios. Yeah, again, it doesn't matter. I mean, even if we get vaccinated, everybody gets vaccinated and everybody gets back to work. I mean, even the current vaccines now, I mean, look, the whole, there's going to be more variants, there's going to be more this, there's going to be more that. Okay? We need to end this pandemic, okay? I'm not here to say how we're going to end the pandemic, because that's beyond this channel. I'm just trying to stick to infrastructure. All I'm trying to the point I'm trying to bring across here is that if we do not end these shutdowns, it's going to get even worse. And we're going to see another shutdown again. We're going to see another shutdown. Amtrak Joe better do something about it instead of having his butt wiped. Yeah. Again, look, don't put any hope in the federal government, okay? I've been saying that for years too, okay? The federal government is not going to swoop in and save you guys. You're going to have better chances within your state governments to do things, right? California is building their own high-speed rail plan. Is building their own high-speed rail infrastructure, okay? That without any... Well, yeah, they are getting funding from the federal government, but this is not without any impetus from the federal government passing a law or passing a bill or resolution that says California is now going to build a high-speed rail plan. That's not anything there, okay? This was California, voted by California voters, and funded mainly by Californians, okay? Texas, the same thing. Texas has a private company that is being built there, okay, through Texas Central Railway. It's getting a lot of funding from the Japanese. It's getting a lot of funding and help from the Spanish, the Spanish high-speed rail companies. That's all going in Texas, okay? And of course, the best example we have is Brightline, okay? What is Brightline doing? Brightline's a private company. Okay, the spinoff of the Florida East Coast Railroad, which is under Florida East Coast Industries. Well, Brightline is under Florida East Coast Industries, and they're building that. Okay, so you're going to have much more success within your state governments, within your local governments, than whatever the federal government is going to do. That is the reality. That's the reality. Okay? So I'd say, yeah, don't throw your masks away just yet. Just keep your masks ready, because they're gonna start asking for that again. Louisiana just passed a mandatory indoor vax mandate, but yeah, let's look at this, guys. So this was this week, the Black Swan event. So for those of you who don't know what a Black Swan event, so just been staring on this on screen, what's Black Swan event? A Black Swan event is what will cause economic depression, or it's a very of either like an act of God sort of thing, or a very it's an extreme sort of event that causes an economic downturn. Okay, I'm pretty sure some of you guys have seen like the little Pepe memes of like the Black Swan memes. If you guys are still trading cryptocurrency at this point, which by the way, there's even a cryptocurrency provision in this bill. I'm not kidding. I'm just let's go back into this real quickly. Cryptocurrency. There is a cryptocurrency provision here in this bill. And It's got to load everything. Here we go. Digital asset. Except as otherwise provided by the Secretary, the term digital asset means any digital representation of value which is recorded on a cryptographical secure distributed ledger or any similar technology as specified by the Secretary. Yes, there's a crypto reporting of digital assets. What is that doing in an infrastructure bill? Okay, that's something for the IRS and everybody else to do. Make another bill about that. Okay? There's no need whatsoever to have something here about that. Extension of interest rate stabilization. This is stuff that shouldn't be here in this bill. Okay, so this is stuff that they added, like cryptocurrency and stuff like that. Which I agree. This has no place in being in this bill. No place being here. Okay, yeah, cryptocurrency provisions in an infrastructure bill. What's that doing there? Again, the problem with these bills is that everybody in Congress and the Senate, they start tacking on pork or other special interest clauses in these bills, usually written by lobbyists. Okay, it's not really these senators or representatives that are this highly scholarly individuals, these scholastic individuals that are going to write 2,000 pages of stuff. No, this is hashed in. A lot of it written by lobbyists, then given to senators, which they say, "Oh, well, this is something that's going to be great." Yeah, Stick to the gains in rail over airlines and trucking. Yeah, I'm trying to, but there's not much in gaining here, except for Amtrak getting billions of dollars, which it does need. But the problem is those billions of dollars are not going to go fully into the projects they need. The Gateway project itself is going to need $40 billion, at least. The cost overruns of it are probably going to be higher. I see that coming out up to $80 billion when all is said and done. Okay? That's a heck of a lot more expensive than even the California high-speed rail plan, which is looking to be about $100 billion. Okay? But let's look into this again. It goes into here, a black swan event. America's supply chain woes may have several underlying causes, but chief among them is the impact of the pandemic-induced shutdowns. Ladd calls this a black swan event, something unpredictable before it happened, but supposedly inevitable in hindsight. Okay, and this was another black swan event that happened around the same time when the pandemic first broke out. Was Russia and Saudi Arabia fighting over oil prices, and we had some pretty cheap oil before at the start of this whole pandemic. In fact, it almost went down under $1 here in the state of Indiana, and a whole lot of other states had almost 90 cents a gallon for gasoline. Now it's just getting even worse at this point. So what is this causing it? An imbalance of trade, of course. That's one part of it. Okay, while consumer spending is to blame for the extreme influx of shipping to the United States, America's trading policies were bound to yield this result, Black said. Black points to an imbalance in trading between China and the U.S. Of course, he's not related to Black Swan. That's a joke, guys. I'm not quite sure what his first name here is. This was earlier in the article. I don't remember. Okay, so the U.S. focused attention on an issue that everyone was very aware of, but no one really wanted to address because, it was like you do a hard day at the office. You go home, you make yourself a 2-hour meal, or you would go to dinner, eat a sandwich, or to the diner. Everyone knew the imbalances that existed between the two countries because there's no secret. No one was shocked when the previous administration was going on about this. But it was so easy, it was so convenient that no one really wanted to address it because they didn't want to rock the apple cart, as they said. Okay, so what he's talking about was that Trump was going to have more embargoes on tariffs and on Chinese goods, which they didn't really go anywhere as far as they said, and this administration has no plans on doing any sort of such thing. The thing is, yes, we do have a massive imbalance of trade with China. A lot of our raw goods now are dependent on Chinese manufacturing. So if we don't have that coming in, that creates a lot of shortage of goods. And again, like we saw with semiconductors as well, and we have been seeing with semiconductors because of the shutdown of semiconductors, because of the high demand of semiconductors, right? So, yeah. Careful, this has CIA and lobbyists written all over when there's a provision of crypto. I think that's more IRS. The CIA really doesn't need anything in crypto. It's the IRS. The IRS wants their money, right? The IRS wants their money. this is what I say is one of the biggest problems of the cell phone market. Okay, so where is all the demand going for chips? Okay, it's because the same thing with the automobile, because of increased induced demand and because of planned obsolescence. What I mean by induced demand is that the automobile manufacturers want to keep creating demand for automobiles, right? Because if they just sell you one car for your lifetime, they don't make money, okay? They want to keep selling you a vehicle, okay? So they would go ahead and make sure that the vehicle basically falls apart, or they try to give you this vision that, oh, the vehicle only has a lifetime of only 100,000 miles. And at 100,000 miles, that's the time to go ahead and switch out your car for a brand new car. Da, 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 da. So what happens? The same thing with phones, okay? This is the phone I had in 2013, okay? I never broke this phone. I never dropped this phone. Well, I never dropped it hard. If it dropped anywhere, it dropped in a carpet. But it was a nice phone. I liked it. And the phone I had before was a Sony Xperia Play. It was the PSP Android phone, okay? And I liked it because I could do a whole lot of stuff on it, and it had a removable back that I can put in a battery, right? Phone manufacturers got smart to that. Now they started closing up the back, so now you could not put in any new batteries, right? So a whole new phone, whole new chip, right? And most people can't really go ahead at home and really take out this and start putting in a new battery, which I did for this phone, but it did not stop it. There was some sort of software issue. Maybe I'll go back and I don't know, do something with this, but whatever. So you had this nice phone, right? And look at the size difference of this phone now compared to, I had to go ahead and buy another new phone, which look at the size difference. This was the Moto X and this is the Moto X2. Look at the difference, the size difference of that. Again, more chips, more semiconductors, more stuff, right? I had this phone. It was perfectly fine. Didn't break it. Didn't want to trade it in or anything like that. One day, it just goes ahead and starts fizzing out. Now I have to go ahead and get a new phone. So now I go ahead and get a new phone, right? And hopefully, knock on wood, this one keeps lasting. But that's the issue, is that we keep buying more stuff, okay? Not a lot of it. Some people, because they want to, they'll keep buying the new iPhone no matter what, because they have to have one upside their rectum, because they have to have an iPhone. But people will keep buying stuff because they're induced by it, okay? They have to keep up with the Joneses. Again, that sort of suburbia mindset. They have to keep up with everything. Or because the phone breaks down, and there's no way that most normal people or most average everyday people and average day folks, they're not going to go in the garage and start putting it up and soldering in new chips and all that stuff, or plug it into a USB in the computer and start doing homebrews and stuff like that. That's not going to happen. They're just going to go ahead, heck with it. I'm just going to go ahead and drop $400 on a new phone, okay? That's what creates a lot of these issues, okay? So, yeah, again, I go into a lot of the economics of this, and I'm very much more of an economic-minded person when it comes to rail. I know a lot of you guys are very much more in tune with creating plans and creating maps and stuff like that. That's perfectly fine, okay? I'm trying to be the other side of this point, trying to bring in more of the political and finance and economic side of it. Because at the end of the day, that's what really is going to matter to us and to our pockets, okay, and to actually living a life worth living, okay. Yeah, flexing on your neighbors, Borat style. king of the castle. Oh man, but yeah, this is the thing. So Pete Buttigieg went ahead a 5-point plan of the supply chain and updating nation's ports. So conducting continuous meetings with those in the industry, so keeping on tabs with that. Digitizing the supply chain, which again, this would be something you should be doing either way. Conducting continuous meetings with those in the industry. That's why your Secretary of Transportation is to be a representative for those in the transport industry and in the supply chain. Digitizing the supply chain. Look, this country ran a heck of a lot better even without the internet. Okay, I mean, we had 110 mile an hour steam trains that were going in between cities, and that was just kept up by a dude on some paper with a telegram, okay? I'm not saying that, we don't need the internet or anything like that. I'm saying that digitizing stuff is not going to become a magic panacea to fix everything. It's not a magic wand. Okay. So, yeah, all these heat maps for importer-exporter to know where containers, trucks, and rail service lie. Look, I've worked for Fortune 500 and Fortune 100 companies, and have made, Power BI decks for a lot of these people. Honestly, CEOs and C-level executive people just want, most of the time, they want a one-sentence summary of what's going on and what they should be doing. Okay? They can see all the pretty pictures and stuff like that on the map, but at the end of the day, the people who are going to be looking at that are going to be the analysts, and the analysts are going to be going ahead and just giving it to the CEO, which at this point, the CEO or anybody else is going to know what to do at this point. Okay. Workforce training and development. Well, you're not going to have workforce training and development if you're not actually building infrastructure to facilitate that. Because if you're just training people, well, training people to build what? If you train a whole bunch of welders, okay, what are they going to be welding? Okay, are they going to be welding ties? Are they going to be welding together, steel, or for what? Okay, for train tracks, for roadways. What are we doing? Trade policy. So Peter's saying here, I'm not advocating that we succumb to trading nations who do not have the same ideals we do. We believe in rules-based trade agreements, but we've got to find a way to get our exporters back in the game. AKA, we're not going to do anything. Continued investment in infrastructure. So you could have just taken all these 4 points, gotten rid of them, and just stuck to one. Continued investment in infrastructure. Over the past 10 years, the United States government has invested 10-1 East Coast versus West Coast, and that's got to change. Mostly because most people live on the East Coast, right? Now, I don't think that's necessarily the point. It's the fact of the matter is not the amount of money we're spending. It's that the prioritization of that spending, the way that we're spending that money, the vast lack of proportion of actually spending it on the actual production part of it rather than the administrative part of infrastructure building, and the waste that goes into wasting it on the administerial part, that's the issue. There's too many cooks in the kitchen. There's too many chefs in the kitchen and not enough cooks. That's, if you want to sum up infrastructure in the United States and why it's so expensive, is because there's too many chefs. Instead of having 10 cooks in one chef, right? One chef just, directing everything. You have 10 chefs and one cook. So you have 10 different people trying to say what to do, and one person's there is like, what am I doing? What am I doing? Yeah, me and Darius got into like a debate about this too, about talking about the whole electronics thing and the supply chain thing. So let's talk about this. How is this directed to rail? Okay, so some of you guys are sick of me talking about. It's like, okay, yes, I get it. You have a picture here of a shipping container and talking about trade. That's perfectly fine. What does that got to do with rail? Well, where do these containers go afterwards? These containers go onto trains, right? They go onto freight. Okay, freight still in this country is still probably the best rail infrastructure, freight rail infrastructure in the world. We are probably second to none to most other nations, according to most experts. Okay, again, you can argue with that, but that's the reality of that. Just looking at the time over here, it's 8:48. So maybe we'll make this an hour and 30 minutes. Okay, I'm sorry about that. So we'll take all the calls at the end. We're still doing that. We're almost done with these articles, and we've got one more part after this rail part. Okay. So citing bottlenecks, Union Pacific Corporation said it will temporarily halt some eastbound shipments from West Coast ports at its Joliet facility, Global 4 near Chicago. The Omaha, Nebraska-based railroad said that since the COVID recovery began, it has seen a large surge in imports and container processing at port terminals in Southern California. Union Pacific said its rail shipments and from the ports have risen and are near record highs. Okay, so now you're thinking is like, wait a second, I thought we were going to see a supply chain, disruption. I thought we were going to see, the supply chain whittle down and there's not going to be any, shipments of anything. That's not what it means. What it means is that because of a supply chain disruption, you're going to see an imbalance of stuff. So widget A can be made without having certain supply that was needed, okay? So widget A can keep getting made, but widget B isn't getting made. So now you have too much supply of widget A that's now being shipped because they still have to be shipped regardless, Okay? It's a very simplistic way of trying to put that out in a macroeconomic sense, but that's as easy as I can try to explain it while we're trying to get through these articles. Okay? The surge in volume has kept cargo idling at anchor. So that's the problem. If you have too much volume of materials, of too many goods, and some of it can't be shipped on the street and rail, the Port of Los Angeles has been working on digging out of the backlog for months, reporting a mixed bag of progress during a video conference this week. And a lot of it was also due to because rail just stopped for a bit, that there was a stop in shipping for a bit in some areas, that they just had stuff that was just building up on there, and until everything opened back up again was when they could go ahead and start shipping things over. And now they just have to get through the backlog. Some data trending positively, while significantly challenges remain in our supply chain, Port of LA Executive Director Gene Soroka said. For example, while half of the container vessels headed to the Port of LA went straight to anchor in June, down from 90% in February, on-dock rail time is running at about 12 days, not far from its peak back in the stream. So what that means is that the ships are just standing there, okay? Which means a lot of these goods, some of these goods that are time sensitive, will get spoiled. Okay, that's why we saw during the at the beginning of this whole thing, why farmers were destroying crops, or they were just dumping milk out into the dirt, was because you can't have all this supply and then it's just going to go to waste. Now there's different ways of doing that. The problem is that the reason is that we make too many things. Okay, we make too many things, and we have a lot of waste in this country. I know for sure from myself. I used to work at Publix. Okay, and it's not Publix's fault that we're wasting so many things. Is that because of the way our supply chain is made? We have to keep moving so much stuff. Again, this goes back to what I was saying at the beginning. We have gone too much into saying we have to have so much supply, we have to have so much stuff. So this is what I'm talking about, okay? The whole system of having better rail transportation kind of has to start that we have to change our entire system of morals in general in the United States. I'm not saying, throw everything out with the bathwater. I'm saying is that we have to go back to a system where we had this working before, okay? The way that Americans were before is not the same as it is today. It is not. So that's what we're talking about over here. Okay. So we have asked in many cases implored our importers to pick up their cargo, he added. Our dwell times crept up again in June. We've got to reverse that trend, putting extra emphasis on velocity of cargo, moving it out as quickly as we can, and demanding to bring those containers and chassis back. So there's too much cargo now there because of the disruption of the supply chain, so they have to halt a lot of these shipments, okay? And Trains.com reported that Union Pacific's decision will create a massive backups at West Coast ports, all right? Do we have some good news? Yes, we do. Big Boy's coming back. So you can go ahead and get your mind off the current apocalypse and go see the Big Boy. Okay, the massive steam train, the most powerful steam train ever made. So here we go for you guys. For those of you who don't know, I'm pretty sure all of you do know. But look at this. August 14th at Fort Worth, Texas. This is going down more south and in the west. So not in the Midwest as it was last year, but now toward Texas, Fort Worth, Houston, Texas on the 17th. New Orleans, Louisiana, August 21st. St. Louis, Missouri, August 29th. Denver, Colorado, September 6th. So, there you go. Some good news. Hey, now we'll skip this because, again, if you don't think the shortages are real, they are real. Even at Costco. It's just a random article that I just picked out about shortages, right? Things like chicken, dog food, water. Okay, bottled water. Yes, bottled water can see a shortage. Okay, that's true. Chips and oil. And again, you think something like water, which it's only one ingredient, it's water, so you don't need, no. It's, again, because of the disruption in the supply chain, that means it could stop other goods from actually moving ahead if it's not as prioritized. Okay, that happens. And then you have tomato sauce. So again, be careful of that, guys. Be careful of that. Just keep prepared. Okay? I'm not gonna have a show for that, but again, look at that. Timber is another shortage. So yeah, that's where we are at the shortages. Let's go with the last bit of articles over here. This is the last main one I wanted to go over. This is by Matthew Iglesias. I think I should bring him onto the show at some point. He has an infrastructure and supply chain and economics based blog that he runs called Slow Boring. So Amtrak should bring in foreign experts to make trains great again. I have said this for years, okay? I said bring in people from Japan, bring in people from Germany, bring in people from France. You got to bring in outsiders that actually know how to make high-speed rail, because we don't know how to make high-speed rail in this country, okay? We don't know, okay? We used to, but all those people who did know how to run passenger rails, like back in the golden age, they're gone. Literally, they're dead. So what are you going to do? You're not going to cast a necromantic spell and bring them out back from the dead. That's not going to happen. We're going to have to bring in people, preferably alive, to come over here and have some advisors on this. So again, this is a good article to read. You guys should go ahead and take a look at this if you have time to look at it. But I'll summarize this for you. Because of the investment that we're going to make in Amtrak, we don't want that investment to go to waste, right? You can, you can go ahead and say we're going to put in $1 trillion into Amtrak. Okay, let's just say everybody in Congress caught like the COVID Sigma variant, and all of a sudden they became super based and all that type of stuff, and all of a sudden, yes, we're going to give $1 trillion to Amtrak. And in one day, they pass an entire bill that gives $1 trillion to Amtrak, and the Republicans signed it. It's 100 in the Senate, 435 in the House, and it passes on to Joe Biden, which the guy picks up Joe Biden and picks up his hand, and he writes the thing, right? So that will be the thing. So let's say Amtrak gets $1 trillion out of that weird scenario, okay? Will they be able to use that $1 trillion effectively? In this current stage that Amtrak is in, short answer is no. They will not be able to use $1 trillion effectively. Okay? And this is the thing. I do see that the people who are leading Amtrak, they're not really rail fans or people who actually understand passenger rail. Let's look into this. Amtrak is a mess. So he goes through the story. Sometimes I like to tell the story of the time an Amtrak executive told me, to be honest, I don't know much about trains. Then sometimes I feel bad about it because it's not like the guy's job involves supervising the operation of trains. But then I think about it more. I generally don't think it's a cheap shot. The specific context is he had a complaint about the Mark Penn line, and I said he should take it up with his colleagues. He was confused. Then I was confused. Then it emerged that he didn't realize Amtrak operates the Mark Penn line under contract with the Maryland Transit Administration, so he was complaining about his own organization's operations. He shrugged and said the thing about not knowing too much about trains. And I think this is emblematic of Amtrak. It is run by people who are not curious about trains. Okay? That's a big deal. All right? Yeah, you have people now that, used to run freight trains, but again, you don't want somebody going ahead and treating people like cargo and running this like if it was precision scheduled railroading. You can't do that with passenger trains. That's not a good way to run a railroad, a passenger railroad. And frankly, precision scheduled railroading is not a good way to run a railroad either. There's some good aspects of it, but there's a lot of bad aspects about it that tear apart rails, right? So yeah, that's one part of that. And he goes into Alan Levy and Eric Goldwyn of the Transit Cost Project have studied the issue, and I think it should be doable for about $15 billion. That's to fix up the Northeast Corridor. They are also actively seeking grant money to do this work in more detail and write up a proper proposal. Well, good luck to them if they can get money to do that, if anybody actually listens to that. So any rich people, please forward this to them. Alternatively, Pete Buttigieg should hire Alan as a special advisor at the DOT to red team Amtrak's plans. They're never going to do that because Alan is smart. Alan Levy, if you've never read his pedestrian observations blog, Alan Levy is smart, and the United States, not to say that they're dumb, but they're not gonna hire somebody with that talent. They're not gonna hire me or Alan or anybody else that actually has a passion and knows about the industry. Alan definitely knows a lot more about the finite details about it. I know much more about the macroeconomic scale and about what it entails, both sociologically and economically, and what it means. They're not going to hire people like us, okay? Because that's not how the United States government works, unfortunately, okay? I wish it would work like that. It used to work like that. It doesn't anymore. It's not quite an Amtrak hit piece, Nedge. This is an Amtrak hit piece, okay? A lot of us, like us, we all love Amtrak, okay? It's not an Amtrak hit piece, okay? He goes into here, the case for a foreign CEO, how to fix Amtrak, okay? So what we get instead of having like you have people like Charles Moorman or an airline guy like Richard Anderson or the new guy Flynn, who has experience with both airlines and freight. But it's not like anyone in the world thinks the United States of America is a global leader in intercity passenger rail, or that Amtrak is the world's premier passenger railroad operator. What we are is a big, rich country that can afford to spend some money to bring some folks in from better intercity passenger railroads. This is what I keep saying, okay? That's why Brightline is doing well, okay? They brought out a lot of foreign advisors from Deutsche Bahn, from Siemens, from the... what's the one in Switzerland? Something Jet. If you guys can remind me what the one in Switzerland is called, the intercity passenger rail that runs on diesel through Switzerland. It's something Jet. I forgot what it's called just now. But they brought in a lot of foreign advisors from those places to actually do that, okay? Same thing in Texas. They brought in a lot of Japanese advisors. They're bringing in people from Spain, okay? The people who actually know how to run high-speed rail, okay? The Japanese, the Spanish, the French, the Germans, they all know how to run it. We don't in this country, all right? Okay, and yeah, Andy Byford. Okay, so I talked about this before about the MTA, and this is actually part of what's going into my video about comparing the MTA and New York's total metro transit versus Tokyo's total metro transit. Andy Byford used to be the head of Hong Kong's MTR. Okay? The night jet, yes. Oh, no, it's Railjet. It's Railjet. Railjet isn't, Austria. It runs in Austria and it runs in Switzerland. Yes, thank you. Thank you, guys. Yes, it is the Railjet. They need advisors from Turkey. Yeah, I think Turkey has high-speed rail, too. Turkey has high-speed rail, okay? Morocco has high-speed rail, okay? The United States does not have true high-speed rail yet, okay? We're falling behind. Well, we've been falling behind. So Andy Byford was a guy who actually knew this stuff, okay? He ran probably one of the most successful transit operations in the world, okay? The Hong Kong MTR, which also runs operations in Australia and runs a part of London's Tube. So he was actually part of the MTA, okay? So, and what happened to him? Well, politics kicked him out. Politics didn't like him. New York officials did something unusual and brought in an outsider with experience working in foreign countries that are more transit-oriented to try to fix up a troubled operation. And as best as I can tell, it was working. The subway's speed and reliability improved. And I've been on the subway when Byford was running it. It was actually starting to become better and a lot faster than I thought it would be. Problems were getting fixed, things were happening, and people were praising Andy Byford. This led to only two problems. One is when you bring in a skilled outsider in, he starts fixing some of the stuff and gaining credibility. But he also starts identifying stuff that for some reason or another he can't fix and starts saying stuff like, I can't fix this because of X rule or Y person or whatever else. Lifetime managers of dysfunctional systems learn to just live with these points of dysfunction, right? Bureaucrats, okay? But outsiders have fresh eyes and they say this is not how a world-class system would work. At that point, you start making enemies. And either the politicians have your back or they don't. And in New York, they didn't, seemingly in part because Andrew Cuomo You want to talk about somebody who's in deep shit now and in hot water? Mr. Andrew Cuomo, which we won't talk about in this stream. Oh man, was annoyed that Byford was getting so much praise. There were these train daddy memes, and people were saying he was fixing the subway. Cuomo didn't like that, and he was pushed out. The MTA has been limbo ever since, kind of loosely overseen by Sarah Feinberg, a Democrat Party political operative who kind of backed into transit accidentally during Obama's second term. It's New York, guys. Okay? That's a very New York name. So is Cuomo. I mean, come on, it's New York. But look at that. So one more thing you can blame for Andrew Cuomo, okay? One other thing he put his hands where it shouldn't be is messing up the MTA. That's not where you're putting your hand, Cuomo. Look what you did. So yeah, look, it's a good article. So again, a lot of this is saying that we need to start bringing in people that actually know how to get these things done. Okay, this is what I said about the bill. Okay, it's not as much as throwing, billions of dollars or trillions of dollars all over the place. I mean, we just spent trillions of dollars last year, and has that fixed the economy? No, economy's is still lagging behind. We're stagnating. It's getting worse. I like this comment over here. This one over here by Lost Future. Bigger picture observation, the U.S. spends or wastes an extraordinary amount of money on a lot of stuff. Healthcare, infrastructure, defense spending, college education, etc. Precisely because it's so wealthy. When they're writing the obituary for the American Empire in the 25th century, I think they'll be a little sooner than them. They're going to note that despite being the richest country in the world, is actually kind of a curse. That money just sloshes around and fills every space where it's not really blocked, like water overcoming an obstacle. We're wealthier, but it's also everything's more expensive over here, so it kind of evens out. Okay, so you can look at this. Again, go to slowboring.com, run by Matthew Iglesias. I may bring him on over here because this is good stuff to talk about. This really is. Yeah, so that's where we're at over here. Again, this is not my own thing. I'm not going to go into this one, but this is by the editorial board of the Wall Street Journal. Amtrak $66 billion ticket. The government can't run a railroad, but it sure can't subsidize one. And a lot of this goes into the same stuff all the time, right? Look at that. Behold, the Democrats and GOP locked in a deadly tango over Biden's $4 trillion. Yeah. It's more like they're the scorpion and the American people are the frog, and we keep falling for it, trying to bring them over the water. And you know the story of the scorpion and the frog. I'm sure you know that that analogy what I'm bringing up. Oh yeah. Okay, so enough about this because we just talked about that. So yeah, some parts of this in the bill reduce focus on profitability, bringing back food on long distance trains, etc., etc. So we've talked about this before. Okay, a lot of this we've already talked in the middle of the stream about this, guys. All right. So let's go into the last parts of this. Off the rails segment. Something we already knew about that we probably all knew was true. What American Airlines thinks about the customer. American Airlines CEO, the customer isn't always right. Okay, now let's be honest. Is the customer always right? No, but rule one of the customer isn't always right. You never say that the customer isn't always right. Rule number 2, you don't talk about Fight Club. So look at this. It just goes to show you how the airlines treat people. If they're saying this out loud, right? This is a given. When people say, the customer is always right, we know what that means. It doesn't mean that, yes, if the customer says, put ketchup on your face, smear it up, and then take off your shirt and scream for Szechuan sauce. No, you can't. The customer can't do that, right? But you don't just say it out loud. And American Airlines is known for doing stuff like this. Of course, you had one famous CEO and president who also ran a large marketing campaign against Brightline, which was known at the time All Aboard Florida, And he was known for trying to see if he could rig prices on airlines. Remember that? Yeah. It's insane. So, yeah, this is what I just said. American Airlines CEO Doug Parker just said something we knew he thought all along. The customer isn't always right. Does that explain the customer service model at American Airlines? Okay. And a lot of this has to do with the seemingly increasingly number of passengers that are acting up on airlines. I don't know why the picture for this isn't coming out, but this is a Frontier Airlines passenger who was duct taped on a Frontier Airlines, of course, at Miami International Airport. Excuse me. Let me see if I can find that for you guys while I'm looking it up. Oh, we got a super chat from Akbar Ali. Thank you. Can they make a rule giving passenger trains priority over freight? The thing is, yeah, they actually have one. They do. Would make negligible impact on freight, but a big bonus for rail passengers. The funny thing about that, Akbar, is that yes, there actually is one. There is a law that gives Amtrak priority over freight railroads. The problem is that Amtrak, they're too nice with the freight lines. They have no teeth when it comes to actually going ahead and enforcing it, and the government just lets it go. So this new law does actually reiterate that law again, or this new infrastructure bill. That provision isn't there that gives passenger rails priority over freight rail, but let's see where that goes. Let me see if I can find this picture because it is hilarious. Frontier Airlines duct tape. That is a funny picture. The guy looks like he's about to, eat somebody's head off, and he's just like they're like smiling while he's duct taped in there. It's hilarious. Yeah, here's the picture of the guy. Oh, it disappeared. There we are. Here he is. There's the guy. Florida man taped to his chair. Cannot take airlines. At the way airlines are doing, hey, it drives people nuts, right? It just goes to show how insane some of these airlines are. This guy was probably, acting up, acting a fool. And I don't know, maybe it deserved to be duct taped into here. But this is just insane. What's going on airlines, okay? Taped to a chair. Why was he taped to a chair? Police said he groped and touched the privates of at least 2 other people while drunk. So yeah, did he deserve to be? First of all, he didn't deserve to be getting alcohol and being put on the flight if he was like that. Look at this, insane. Oh, it was Andrew Cuomo, guys. It was Andrew Cuomo. He touched their breast and spilled his drink and emerged from the restroom shirtless. It was Andrew Cuomo on Frontier Airlines, guys. Andrew Cuomo was coming to Miami, and he had to be taped on a Frontier Airlines. Look at that. This will forever be the most dehumanizing experience in my entire life. Many people laughed and ridiculed me. I'm laughing. As I was mistreated by staff of a professional airline. Bro, you're talking about Frontier Airlines. Professional airline. Just to make matters worse, he said worth. This has gone viral on the internet and will never disappear. To be clear, I did not grope anybody. This is just a stupid narrative the media is pushing. Safe to say I'm never flying Frontier again. Well, I don't know. Maybe you'll probably never be flying anywhere again at this point. Along with this tweet, Barry tweeted "Justice for Maxwell Barry." So yeah, that was kind of funny. So yeah, the customer isn't always right, and sometimes we can tape them out. So look at this. Unfortunately, it looks like alcohol will not be served until the mask mandate is removed, which could be for quite some time. Well, all that's going to do is just make people go ahead and just drink alcohol inside the airport, which it's already, it's more expensive than it is outside anywhere. I never drink alcohol on flights or outside of the flights because it's expensive. Yes, it's expensive, okay? I want to keep my dollars safe. I cannot see the need of spending $12 on a shot of bourbon. That's ridiculous. I would probably get drunk if it was to Miami. Yeah. Who gets duct tape on an airline? Apparently, Maxwell Berry did. And maybe Andrew Cuomo will too. But the thing is that since people know they're not going to have any outlet to go ahead and drink on the airline, now they're just going to drink at the terminal. They're going to drink themselves almost to death. They're going to get on the airline anyway because the person at the front desk is more interested in making sure that their bag is maybe 2 inches more than the requirement, so they can go ahead and charge them $75 for a bag. I'm not kidding. Spirit Airlines will charge you $75 for a bag on some flights if your bag is too big. It's basically the size of the ticket. The price of the ticket. So yeah, it's really surprised that people are bringing more alcohol on board when it's not sold on board. That's what I just said. That's precisely the concern. At least when alcohol is sold on board, servings can be regulated. Exactly. Not so when the buffoon in 26C brings on an oversized bottle of Jack Daniels. But did you catch the line, the customer isn't always right? Well, indeed, in the context of poor behavior on board, the customer is most certainly not always right. But I think Parker dances around the ish solution in an odd way. Doesn't it make sense that one solution to diminish mask-related violence on board on airplanes is to stop requiring masks, or maybe to start treating passengers like humans and not cattle by offering them the choice of food and drink for purchase on board? Okay? Because that's the thing. Airlines, for a long time in the United States, are basically worse than Greyhound buses of the sky. They're the charter buses of the sky here in the United States. Okay? They're awful. You're all cramped in there. Okay? Well, now you're just cramped in there, but now you're like this the whole time with your mask on. Which makes no sense. Okay? Honestly, if every single transit line is regulated by the same rules, that you have to have separated seating, airlines should follow the same rules. Okay? It doesn't matter. They don't get to break those rules or skirt those rules. Doesn't matter how much money they need to make to stay solvent. Okay? Because the government's just going to pay them off anyway and give them $50 billion so they can just go ahead and lay off people, right? Not only that, they'll lose your cats, American Airlines. So the customer isn't always right. But those felines now, those felines, oops, we lost them. Woman says American Airlines lost track of her 2 cats on a flight to Los Angeles to New York City, right? So this looks like a woman, very distraught, but again, she looks like someone who would own cats. That's not to say anything, but yeah, this looks like someone who would take her cats, and then American Airlines would lose them. Again, I'm not saying anything wrong or anything bad about her, but it's honestly distraughting. You bring your pet or your luggage or anything. Look, it's even worse when you bring a live animal, a living creature, on board, and American Airlines loses it. Right? So United breaks guitars, and American Airlines loses cats. This is it's insane. So yeah, this is the problem with American Airlines CEO Doug Parker saying that the customer isn't always right. That's just one thing you don't say, because that brings about, if this is what he's saying in public, imagine what American Airlines C-level executives are saying behind the boards. Imagine what the board members of American Airlines are saying behind closed doors about their customers. Okay, about their actual source of money. Oh wait, no, the actual source of money is their stock buybacks and their bond buybacks, where they go ahead and take all the profits and go into there. So not only are they're disrespecting their employees, and not giving them raises or anything like that, and they just lay them off after getting money from the government, but they're disrespecting their customers. Okay. So yeah, that's American Airlines, losing cats. And again, this woman was distraught. She even put a song, "I think I'm going to kill myself." No, don't kill yourself because of the cats, lady. You'll get them back. You'll get them back. She did get them back. But let's see. When the American Airlines worker told me they didn't have my cats, I didn't know where they were. I panicked and my heart dropped to my stomach. I immediately fell to the floor and started crying. Part 2, final update and story time on American Airlines losing my cats. Thank you again to those who reached out for kind words. So they were able to, it was about another hour until she was reunited with her 2 cats. So again, pretty stressful situation that didn't need to happen for this lady and her cats. I'm pretty sure the cats had a worse time than her, because they don't know what the heck is going on. They're just slept in there by some airline worker. And you know how airlines workers treat bags, okay? Not to say that all of them do, but the consensus is true on that airline workers don't really treat bags the same way. I'm pretty sure probably one airline worker forgot that these were cats in a bag and, kept the cat in the bag. Not in the way they should have been, right? So those poor cats. And the poor woman. I feel worse for the cats. I'm gonna be honest. The poor, they don't know what's going on. They're like, "What the heck is going on here? Why are we lost? Why we're in this dark cavern? Why? What is that noise? What's going on? What is this G-force? What's going on?" The poor cats. Oh man. Oh, we got another super chat over here. Thank you, Argos. Any plans for Brightline Station at FLL? The FEC tracks go literally adjacent, yes, to the Fort Lauderdale Airport, Terminal 1, so it would be relatively easy. For those of you guys who don't know where Brightline goes in Fort Lauderdale, so there's a part of the FEC that goes underneath the airport. Let me bring up Google Maps here so I can show you guys. And then that's it for our article, so we'll go ahead and go into calls and then look at the rest of our chat, and then we'll look into there. So there's a part of the FEC that goes right underneath in there. Let's see if it will actually come up. Satellite. I gotta reinstall Google Earth Pro on here. Ooh, excuse me. There we are. Here we go. All right. There we are. Okay. So here's US 1. Here's the Florida East Coast Railroad. Okay. And here's the Fort Lauderdale International Airport. Okay. So what Argos is saying is that, well, here's Terminal 1 right over here. Terminal 1's over here, I think. Concourse A, and the runways are right on top of here, and there's a tunnel where you go underneath. The FEC goes right underneath the airport and goes right into there. So it goes right next to the airport. So yeah, it's actually not that hard to go ahead and make, let's say, a station over here, probably in a regularly shaped station, or maybe you have to move some of the highways up. You know, highways are overrated, right, guys? So you can make a station or something over here, and then make it so that, you know, if somebody wants to go from their ticket, or let's say somebody like lands in Fort Lauderdale International Airport and they want to get on Brightline and go over to either Miami or go over to let's say the Aventura station. Heck, that would make my life a lot easier if I were to go to Fort Lauderdale, and I could just, you know, go over there, take a Brightline over, get into there, and then go over to Aventura. Right? You know, that would be very good. Okay, and the Brightline station is going to be built about right over here. Okay, here's the Aventura Mall. Like I said, if every mall in America were to close, the Aventura Mall would still be the only one open. All right, so they're making the station around over here. There's going to be a bridge that goes over the Aventura Mall. Okay, so yeah, that would make sense if they would make that. I'm not quite sure if that's actually in the plan. I know it's been talked about, but right now they're just focusing on getting to Orlando. That's priority 1. Priority 2 is making the Aventura and Boca Raton stations, and priority 3 is getting over to Tampa. Okay, and in that order. Okay, there has been no plans to go to the Fort Lauderdale Airport, but if something like that does come up, again, if I can get back in contact with some people that I know at Brightline, I'll bring it up again, because I know I've talked about it with them, and they think it's a fine idea, but they just don't see it, you know, it happening right now. Again, that's a lot of work to set out and put out, but it's very simple to get done. I mean, there's US there's US 1 over here, and there's the FEC going right along here. Yep, there's the FEC. So yeah, it's very possible to do that. But right now, the only way to get from Brightline to the Fort Lauderdale Airport is through the actual Brightline station itself. Where is it? I got lost. No, wait, no. Tarpon River Brewing. Okay, wait, no. It's over the New River. There we go. And there's the Brightline station. There you are. See? Can't get lost. All right. So there's the Brightline station. So the only way to get there is that there's a shuttle that goes from there over to the airport via US 1. So that's one way to do it. And Tri-Rail has something similar too. Over here, there's a Tri-Rail station over here. So something very similar. They also have a free shuttle that goes between Tri-Rail to the International Airport. And there's also the one over here. Where is it? The one by the Bass Pro Shop. I'm trying to see where it is. Okay, there's Dave & Buster's. There we go, Bass Pro Shop. And there's the station. Yeah, there's the station. Yeah, so this is the station that you go from Tri-Rail. And that's a free shuttle that goes and takes you over to... right from 818 over to US 1 via US 1 to go into the station. So yeah, that's how that works. All right, so enough about that. Let's go into our Discord channel. Let's see who's on. Oh, it's our regular contributor over here, David Mitchell. Let's bring him on board. All right, David, you are on board.
What's going on, Demo?
Going good, David. How about you?
A little tired, but I'm still going to bring up with the shortage. It coming from someone who worked at Walmart in retail with the buggies. Like, the shortage is real. Like, literally, couldn't find underwear or socks. Not joking.
Oh, man. That's something you don't want to be in shortage of anyway, either.
So, do you think about that, you know?
Yeah. No, and it's a big problem. And people are, especially here in America, we're just so used to going, to Walmart or Target. If I hear somebody call Target one more time, I swear. Or going to Target, and people are just used to just getting what they can. And like, no, that's not how it's worked for most of history. This is just a new phenomenon that you just have, we take it really too much for granted, to be honest.
I know. Oh, and speaking of that, I sent you three links to some articles and stuff that I wanted to talk to you in live stream. And one of them in California. You know that little new commuter rail system called SMART?
Yeah.
Well, SMART is officially the first commuter rail system in a long time to haul freight now.
Interesting.
They made a deal about a week to 2 weeks ago. So SMART for passenger and freight railroads since the 1970 and 80, if I'm right.
Yeah. There we go. So I got state allots $4 million for SMART freight repairs. Okay, so SMART will get $4 million from the state to address overdue repairs to its newly acquired freight rail line. The state budget allocated, approved by Governor Gavin Newsom later this month, will bring total state funding for its freight repairs to $6 million of the $10 million that the Sonoma-Marin Area Rail Transit District needs to repair the freight lines that run from Napa to Windsor. All right, that's easy. Again, it just goes to show you that a lot of this stuff just gets done a lot quicker, easier, faster, and better through the states.
And here, Shane, I can see once they get that done, I can see that they're probably going to try to rebuild the track all the way up until, Eureka, California. They're probably going to rebuild that. There's a high chance possibility it's SMART at doing what they're doing, It's a high chance.
Yeah.
Oh, by the way, I can't say a name. The New York Senator or Cuomo.
Oh, you're talking about the Governor Andrew Cuomo, yes.
Yeah, Andrew Cuomo. I hope he burned in hell.
All right. I didn't say it, guys. It was a caller that said it. Again, we're not responsible for whatever our callers say.
but he really messed up the subway, you know?
Oh yeah, no, that's without a doubt. I mean, the subway's been getting a bad rap, and a lot of it is due to Cuomo's mismanagement. To be quite honest.
Exactly. Oh, and so I hope he burned in hell, you know? And he finally got karma. That's what is happening right now is freaking karma.
Oh yeah. I mean, for everything that he's done. I mean, a lot of people are ticked off of him about the what he did during the pandemic of basically keeping a lot of old people locked up in facilities, and they just started catching the virus even more and dying off in droves. A lot of the measures that he's put forward to, and again, he's just been a terrible governor for the state of New York. I mean, if you have so many people leaving the state of New York that are actually coming into New York, that says something about the state. And of course, now they're coming into Florida, which is messing up Florida too. But that it says something. It really does say something.
Oh, being that the CXX Pride unit came by today, and I caught it on video.
I can't hear you, man. You're not close enough to the microphone.
The CXX Pride unit, the Spirit of Law Enforcement one?
Yes.
I caught him today in a meetup.
Oh, cool.
Mm-hmm. Oh, and seeing that, I got 2 more articles that you might want to look at, and they fall straight here in Charleston.
Okay. I'll take a look at that, but yeah. So this is a good article. Again, it's good in showing that yes, the states have a lot more clout and a lot a very much a better prioritization, and they're just going to do infrastructure a heck of a lot better than the federal governments are going to do any day of the week. The federal government really is just there to be the big piggy bank to just give the states more money. That's really what it is. That's what a lot of this bill is just really giving just out a lot more money, but really not to where things actually need to be given to.
Oh, the lava plant in South Carolina?
Again, David, I can't hear you if you're far away from the microphone.
You know the lava plant here in South Carolina?
No.
They are actually planning to add rail to it. So.
Oh, okay.
And they wanted the article talk about them connecting the Volvo plant here in Charleston to the CXX.
Oh, the Volvo plant in Charleston. Okay, all right.
Yeah, you know one that I'm talking about?
Yes.
Yeah, they're talking about connecting it with rail.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. I mean, most of these car factories were connected directly to rail. I mean, Detroit had a massive rail network there because a lot of the trucks and cars that they were making is connected to that. Of course, now after Detroit has been basically decimated, a lot of that's spread all over the United States.
It's going to take a long time before Detroit will be able to rebuild itself. It's going to take a long time.
And that's an if. If Detroit builds itself, that's a very, very big if. I mean, some cities in history are just meant to fall. Sometimes just never come back. Detroit may just be one of those. I mean, it's still very much there. It's still very much that it could come back. But sometimes it's just like that. You just have it for a fleeting moment, and it's just here for when it is.
Now there is a small railroad here in South Carolina called the Palmetto Railroad. They just had a big deal with the second article I sent you, where they're planning to build a new intermodal port in Charleston, like on the peninsula.
Yeah, I'll take a look at that, but I think we're just gonna stick to that though. We're gonna try to keep the calls short, but I thank you for coming on, David. Again, it's really great the content that you bring up here, so we can look into it in terms of all the other articles and news that we were looking at. They always seem to line up perfectly well.
But I hear the silver meteor.
Oh, you live right by the tracks. Okay, cool.
I can hear trains from my house. I actually walked the train track today to cottage. Well, I'm actually getting ready to edit and work on the video.
Nice. All right.
Oh, he's going by right now. I see him.
Yeah, I remember taking the Silver Meteor all the time, man. That was better days. It was fun. It really is a fun time to be on the Amtrak train. I'm sorry?
Do you go, like, I know you, how far on Silver Meteor have you been? Have you been all the way up to the northeast?
Yep, all the way up, all the way from Miami, all the way up to where it terminates in New York, all the way up.
Yep, you went by my house.
Yeah, I know, man.
Lord.
I don't know. Maybe I was waving. Probably I was snoring because I usually fall asleep by the time it gets over past Atlanta. That's usually when I fall asleep, and then I wake up around when it.
The Silver Meteor. By the time the Silver Meteor gets to Charleston, it's usually around 9:30 p.m., 10 o'clock.
Yeah.
But we passed it through my house. When he heading up north, he come through during the nighttime, and when he coming down south, it's right a couple minutes before sunrise, around 6:30.
Yeah. The problem is the Silver Star takes longer because, of course, it has to go off into Tampa and then right back up again. But anyway, yeah, that's most of the time you should take the Star. I think I've taken it about. I think I maybe taken the Silver Star a little bit more than the Silver Meteor, but I've taken both. And the auto train.
I'm gonna bring you a little quick history up. The area I live in outside of Charlton called Ravenel, we've been a train town with a rail yard where track used to split. We had a Y and track used to split and head everywhere else, off the A line to our track. Now the only thing that is there that you can tell that track used to go there is a fertilizer plant that get freight cars every once to twice a week.
Right.
But the track used to split here in Ravenel with a rail yard. I got some old photos that... Would it be okay if I send you the photos later on so you can show them on the next live stream?
Yeah, I'll see if I can fit them on there.
Because it will blow your mind how the area I live in looked back in the 60s and 70s.
Oh, yeah.
So,
that's gotta be interesting to see then.
Oh yeah, and I'm going to take them photos later on of what Ravenel looked like now, and it'll blow your mind at the changes.
All right.
But yeah.
Oh, well, anyway, thank you for coming on, man. I appreciate it.
You're welcome, man. See you later.
All righty. Take care.
Have a good night.
You too. All right, so we got one more person in the audience who we're going to bring on, Rennell Reed, pretty good friend of mine. We'll bring him up on board to speak. Up from upstate New York, it is Rennell Reed. You are invited on board. Yes, Darius, that was a mistake of mine. Yeah, it was Savannah, not Atlanta. The Silver Star, Silver Meteor run by Savannah, not Atlanta. That is my mistake. I said the wrong city in Georgia. Thank you, Darius. So Rennell Reed, you are invited to speak. Come on board. All right, and there's nobody else in the audience on Discord who wants to come up, so Rennell Reed does not come up within the next 2 minutes or so. We'll probably end it there. So it's 9:38. So we're doing pretty good for time, guys. We'll probably end it pretty soon. Rennell Reed, going once, going twice. Let's see what's here in the comments. What is the most pedestrian U.S. city to get around? There's several. I wouldn't say there's a pedestrian city. I would say there's more pedestrian-friendly parts of some U.S. cities. For example, New York has some friendly pedestrian parts. Chicago has some very friendly parts to walk around to. I think that's probably something in an article up for debate. I'm just saying from what, in my opinion, I've seen some pretty pedestrian-friendly places. It's the same thing even in our own city.
You hear me?
I can hear you now, Rennell. Welcome aboard.
All right. Dealing with a little bit of technical glitch, but you should be able to hear me now.
Yeah, I can hear you perfectly clear, except for some of the feedback in the background. But apart from that, I can hear you I can hear you good.
Um, I'm listening. I listened to what you said earlier on the stream about Amtrak and why they're in a big mess and why Brightline is doing okay.
Yeah, and there's several reasons for that. Again, we can't say that Brightline is a success right now. We can say that it's becoming a success. But we haven't seen Brightline in its final form yet, as they say, right?
I can partially say because Brightline doesn't have to play. They're not playing politics. I mean, Amtrak is purely like 100% or 80% political. I mean, they have to play politics and do because they're run by the government.
Yeah. I mean, even in this new infrastructure bill, it's basically re-releasing and updating Amtrak 2.0. That's what we can call this. That's actually a good. Thank you for bringing it up, because that just gives it a good idea. This is basically Amtrak 2.0 in this bill. That's what they're doing. So the federal government does have a lot of power over Amtrak, because they not only created it, but they're now recreating it in a sense through this bill. That's what they're doing.
And that's why, Texas Central and Brightline are private projects, and they don't have to play politics, because it's not like California.
Well,
I mean, that's a purely 100% political.
They don't have to. They are playing politics, but it's not as much as Amtrak. It's not like they're a federal entity like Amtrak is. They still have to play politics all the time, whether it's through commission meetings or State Department of Transportation meetings, or I mean even through the federal bonds. Hey, I was in those meetings. I was up front, up close and personal in those meetings. That basically what they had to do for the first term of their existence, before they even had tracks and trains running on those rails, was purely politics in order to get approval and funding available for Brightline, and to get the bonds approved by the Florida Department of Financial, the FDFC, the Florida Development Finance Committee.
Or even the year of testing by the FRA.
Yes.
Testing the trains.
Yeah, so they still have to play politics, just not as much. And I see someone here, Ned J10 on the comments said that Brightline is playing massive politics. They are playing massive politics, but again, it's nowhere near the point that Amtrak plays it.
Or what's going on, or like California's project.
You're right.
Demetrius?
Yes, I'm here.
I want to reiterate on their Amtrak's ordering of the venture coaches. I think they're doing it just maybe because I think they're kind of keeping, like, eyeing what Brightline is doing, and they want to be. You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I think you mentioned this before in the previous stream that we had a while ago about the ventures. Yes, I think it has more to do, and I'm pretty sure if I were to ask somebody at Amtrak, it definitely has a lot more to do that Siemens is not only the only manufacturer that's bringing in within the United States. Yeah, well, Siemens in general, because Alstom is only doing the electrified. The Avalia train sets.
Corridor.
Correct. Siemens is doing the diesel train sets for Brightline and for it's not Virgin anymore. Remember that for Brightline, and also they're producing the Chargers, the ALC 42s for Amtrak. So they're basically the only player in town. It's not like you can go to Bud's Locomotives anymore, or any other of these, or Alco, or any other of these companies anymore, because they don't exist. And they don't exist in the same point that they do. I mean, Wabtec took over GM's previous, GE's previous venture into rail, which used to run for a very long time. I mean, GE still makes, they used to make, they still, the GE's, the P-42s still run on Amtrak, but they don't make those anymore, and GE doesn't make trains anymore. They sold that over to Wabtec back in 2018. So,
What about Bombardier still does?
Bombardier is owned by that all got sold out to Alstom. Now they don't exist anymore. Not in the same way that they used to.
They don't make trains anymore.
No, they don't make passenger trains. At least here for the United States, they don't. No. So that's why they went with Siemens. But anything else you want to comment on, or any questions?
I say I'm gonna comment on something you said earlier on the stream, was how you said, you pointed out to some article about the government doesn't know how to run a railroad, but I think the Brightline folks and Texas Central, that they do.
Well, remember the folks at Texas Central are getting a lot of foreign
advisory,
right?
From Spain, Japan,
right? Nobody here, nobody in the United States really knows how to run, let's say, a world-class railroad at the level of France or Germany.
Train.
Correct. Yeah, that would be a more correct statement. Yeah. So that's the reality of that. All right. Well, again, thank you for coming on, man. I appreciate it.
You too.
All right. Thank you. Take care.
Yeah.
All right. So we actually have one more person in the audience, and we'll go ahead and take them in. Let's check out the comments real quick over here. Again, going back to what I was saying about having a walkable cities. I mean, there's places and cities that are more walkable. Again, I urge you guys to, if you really want to talk about how do you make suburbs walkable and stuff like that, go look at Not Just Bike series on Strong Towns. That's definitely a fantastic starting place to go ahead and go further into that. And then from there, you'll have a little bit more knowledge, and you can start to look at the other places, or look at Strong Towns so you can see, because Strong Towns has a lot of information of how cities actually did this in places like Europe. In terms, Stadler is very much in the U.S. business. They do make trains for, I believe, Texas, and the DART uses Stadler, and California's, what was the name of the transit system over there? Caltrains. Caltrains uses Stadler. So yeah, but they don't make they don't make intercity passenger rail trains like Siemens has been doing, at least for the last several years. That's why Amtrak went with that. And Stadler does that. They don't make them like as they've been making them like Siemens has. Bombardier has been focusing on plates. That's basically what they're doing. They sold off all their train business anyway over to Alstom. All right. Anyway, let's go ahead and bring on Marcus on board, and that will be our final person that we get on here from the Discord chat. So Marcus, you're on board. Hey there.
Great. Let me start by saying I'm from North Florida, Jacksonville in my case.
Nice.
So I wanted to kind of look and get your thoughts on some of the things we're trying to do here in terms of rail, but also I guess transportation in general. I have a link here. Is there a particular place I share it?
Just if you can DM it right to me, that will be perfectly fine.
Yeah, give me just a second.
Yeah. Yeah, there should be an option. Just go ahead and message. There you are.
Yeah, I came across this just a few weeks ago. That's apparently our attempt at trying to make commuter rail happen. along actually the FEC.
Oh, that would actually be interesting. Let's see, First Coast Commuter Rail.
Yeah, it's something they've actually been talking about for quite some time. It's actually, let me see if I recall correctly, 2000, I think 7 was when they first started seriously talking about it. There was a study in 2009, and then kind of radio silence for a while because they did BRT instead.
Ah, man.
Now they're trying to swing back around to it with I guess this proposal, where the idea I guess is that somehow FDOT will cover it.
Yeah, if Florida's Department of Transportation, I know they've had some proposals, and they've had some plans of looking at different proposed rail sectors within Florida. I know they had several in Tampa, and several they looked in Central Florida for, and of course up in the upper county over here, like for example, like St. Augustine, Volusia County, Flagler, Ormond, Daytona. I know they were looking at that, but yeah, this makes sense of having something over here that connects the upper northeastern part of Florida, because that's a place that not only is it largely spaced, like Jacksonville in particular, is a very large city. I think it's just by square miles of where the city is located, it's the largest city, not by population, but by square mileage. So it's a lot of area to cover. So having something like this makes it easier in order to enable people to get around over here. This is very much a very tri-rail looking sort of thing. And I can see this happening once Brightline starts. I would say probably past, once it gets to Orlando, rail's going to be looked at more seriously within the United States, especially in Florida. And then something like this will probably happen, especially particularly in the northern part of Florida, because you see a lot of movement now in southern Florida to have Brightline and the Tri-Rail Coastal Link start to fill in the gaps over in the US 1 section part of that part of southern Florida. And having something like this in the Jacksonville area, and between Jacksonville and Daytona, very much will fill in a gap there that's definitely needed in that area, because there hasn't been passenger rail in that area for decades. There's nothing like they have in Orlando, like Sunrail. And I think the only thing you have in Jacksonville is that the little monorail or people mover that goes around the little city, right?
In fact, funny you mentioned that, because we have currently the monorail. We call it the Skyway. Is what we call it.
Yeah.
But right now there's been a lot of work here. I'm sending another link to replace that with something very interesting.
Oh, cool. So you have the ultimate urban circulator. Okay, let's look at that. Yeah, there's a lot of good stuff that's that can be happening in Florida. Definitely will move things along. Okay, cool. Okay, so ultimate urban circulator. Okay, so UTC. There we are. Putting it on here on the screen for everybody to see. Let me play the video over here so you guys can see that. I'll probably.
Yeah, the video's from a few years ago.
Yeah. I can see we haven't moved away from the synthwave look of anything yet. We're just gonna be stuck in that forever. So it's like, why not, right? At this point.
Yeah.
But yeah, this looks like something that could definitely move about. So I see. So it's just an update of the People Mover.
I guess let me pull clarification. I can't tell where you are in the video right now, but essentially it's to take the monorail and remove the beam that the monorail is on.
Okay.
And instead put autonomous vehicles on it.
Okay, so something similar to the boring tunnel, the boring company like Tesla, but instead of actually making a tunnel, you can just take rubber vehicles and put them on there.
And then, well, the plan at least is supposed to be that they take these and they run around on the elevated beam, and then eventually they're going to have ramps to the ground, and they'll just run in mixed traffic.
All right, I see where that's going. Yeah, that makes sense.
But we just had this whole, from a political standpoint, we just had this whole thing about raising the gas tax here, and we did, and part of that was, I believe it was $250 million for converting the monorail into the pod road.
Huh. I know I proposed something similar to this in South Florida, but instead of proposing it and making them into these little people mover pods, what I said was, and I did this with Tony Morris of American Maglev Company, because he had a proposal to go ahead and at the same sort of time, our minds kind of melded together on this, is to make an east-west connection of the maglev there in South Florida, but to also change the Miami People Mover and the Miami Metro Rail and converting them into maglev technology so that the whole system is interconnected. Yeah. At least first starting with the Miami Metro Rail and retrofitting that to have maglev, so at least that you can have a north-south connection that can eventually be upgraded and also extended further north or further south. But I see where this is getting. If it gets its own infrastructure and it's not mixed in with traffic, that can make sense. And I see where this is going. This is
Wait. It is supposed to be like the street portions are mixed with traffic.
Okay, so the mixed with traffic.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's the only problem I see with it, because then you start to enter into the same problems that BRT in this country has, at least. Because when you look at BRT in South America, where it first started, BRT is basically it acts like a train, but it has its own separated road and its own separate way to go about. So I see where that makes sense, and it's definitely like it looks like a fun little project. Again, there has to be a distinction that makes it so that when it gets mixed in with traffic, that it doesn't have to run by the same rules as traffic. That the only times that it stops is when it's going to either pick up passengers and stop at stations. That's the only times where it should stop, or at emergencies. Okay, so there you go. 2 times that it needs to stop is when it's at stopping at stations and at emergencies.
Oh, sorry. I was going to say I had a chance a few months ago at this point. I was actually invited by JTA to their little testing facility where they're trying to figure out how to make these things work. And it was interesting because I couldn't help but I think question whether they really had all the pieces there yet in terms of being able to have these vehicles actually do things autonomously and be okay with that. They had a lot of confidence in it, but I wasn't sure if they really had the technology to back up that confidence.
No, I don't think that's much of an issue to come up with it. I mean, we've seen this happening over in China and other places. I mean, autonomous vehicles, the technology is here for autonomous vehicles. I think it's more of an issue of having all the kinks worked out and having the legislation catch up to technology. That's where I think it's at. But I don't know if where the Jacksonville Transit Authority is going to get this done through. But there's certainly a whole bunch of companies that have this sort of thing tested out. Unless they've tested it out. I'm just trying to look for documentation or something.
For that, if you're on the webpage, I believe it's... hold on.
Yeah, I'm sure. I'm trying to look at it. I see demographic figures, environmental documentation.
If you under blueprint at the top, there's a section about ultimate urban circulator. A lot of that's comes back kind of on that website you were first on.
Right.
But if you look in like the documentation section and the media center, that's kind of where they
Yeah.
currently put a lot of the info they have.
I'll definitely take more of a look at this. This is interesting, and I thank you for bringing this to my attention, because I had no clue of this. I know I heard about like something coming out of Jacksonville. I just didn't know what it was, and since it wasn't in my neck of the woods, I just didn't see to look at it. It didn't really come up on the news, but until like you brought this to my attention, now I can see that there's definitely definitely potential, especially as Brightline is moving forward. That can definitely see a connection between the two.
Well, it was interesting because at one point, while there was a whole discussion about passing the gas tax and passing the money for this project, I believe he works for Brightline's parent company, Florida East Coast Industries, but Hussein Cumber, who's also the husband of one of the city council members in Jacksonville, he wrote an op-ed. Maybe I can find it. But he wrote an op-ed essentially saying that he didn't have confidence that this was a great idea. In fact, I think I have just found that. I have it as an outline article just because
that wasn't a I'm sorry. Clarify which wasn't a great idea. The First Coast commuter rail system or this JTA Skyway.
The JTA, the pods.
Okay, the pods.
Ultimate urban circulator. I don't know if you made much of a comment on the commuter rail. And I think because there's a lot of generally attitude is that JTA hasn't put a priority on it. The money right now is going to the Skyway.
Okay.
Their hope is it seems to be that FDOT will decide to just do it for them and put in the money themselves versus the city having to.
Yeah, that's the thing. If FDOT doesn't see the need for that, or if it's not politically feasible in FDOT's vision, then the money's going to have to come from Jacksonville itself, and I don't see the money coming out from that in order to make a system like this, especially trying to secure it for something as new as this. I mean, it's not new. This has been done everywhere else around the world that actually has systems like this, but here in the United States, this is very newfangled. So seeing something like this in the United States, it's going to be pretty hard.
It's interesting because they obviously had choices when they were going to get the money, and they decided they were going to put the money into the Skyway instead of the rail.
Yeah, I don't know.
I had several discussions, some might call them confrontations, with the CEO of JTA, and it was strange because I would say he was somewhat, I guess, disparaging of rail as a transit mode in terms of, I guess, flexibility. I think was his primary concern.
Yeah, because what this is basically personal rapid transit. It's PRT. It's a pod system. So it's supposed to be more of an on-demand sort of thing, which at that point, like I've said this before, PRT is basically the automobile, and that's not as rapid. It's the same thing like saying bus rapid transportation. It's not as rapid as you think it is. So that's it comes with its own set of problems. And in practice, could it work? Yes, but in reality, there's a lot of kinks that need to be put out of it, and maybe there are better alternatives to having this, like maybe expanding the Skyway and just upgrading it, or instead, if this is really where Jacksonville really wants to go with, then you'll have to focus on making sure that this actually has its own sort of infrastructure and right of way. It's the same thing when it comes to the streetcars in the United States, that the streetcars have been, slumbering for decades, and they've come back to a political system where they're not king anymore. People are not king. That the roadways have been catered to automobiles, and now transit and trams have to follow these new rules here in the United States. They have to stop at the stoplights. It's basically, at that point, it just basically turns into a bus on rails. Instead of an actual transit system. But yeah, there's a whole lot I can go on this, but I'm trying to keep things short. But again, I thank you for coming and bringing this on board. Appreciate it, man.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Of course. Take care. And good luck to everybody there, and to you and everybody in Jacksonville, and hopefully they can get something on board with this.
Thanks. Yeah, I guess we'll see.
Yeah, we'll see. I'll keep on track with this. If you have anything else or anything, just feel free to send it to me. Awesome. Take care. Alrighty. So that is all our callers. That's all our callers for today. We'll take a last look here at the comments. I know it's 10:04. I know I said I was going to make this an hour, and then I said I was going to make this an hour and 30 minutes, and now we're pushing 2. I'm sorry, guys. I see. Yeah, a lot of you guys are not fans of the of the pod systems. I know I've said the same thing. That's why I said, look, it can work, but the way these sort of pod systems work, it's a very select area where this works. I've reiterated this over and over again. We've had a super chat I forgot to mention. Shock2957, Talgo. It's funny that you mentioned that because I just got this in the mail recently. Let me just take this off over here. My mailing address so you guys can see. Look at that. There you are. What's next for Talgo in the United States? Well, right now all of them are just sitting down the street over in the beach, in Beach Grove, area where Amtrak does its trains in the maintenance facility. So I should go ahead and see that. I haven't read it yet. I just got it in the mail. It got mixed up in the mail, so I just got it. But I'm definitely gonna take a look at it, and we'll see about Talgo. But yeah, it was a good experiment to have Talgo running up in the Northwest. Yes, autonomous pods are interesting in less dense areas with less potential users, as they supposedly cost less, but because no operator and less traffic. Yeah, it works in places like, let's say, more very dense, smaller areas like airports, malls, or very dense urban areas. Like, for example, this Toyota City that they're planning over in Japan is very much going to use that sort of philosophy behind making its city having a more densely packed area where there's no cars, it's just these autonomous pods running back and forth and ferrying people along. I want to see a Siemens USA versus Kawasaki USA battle. I just want to see some competition. Yeah. Well, Kawasaki doesn't make whatever they make over in Japan is definitely not what they're making for us over here. I mean, they're keeping all the good stuff for themselves. Let's be honest about that. Bus on rail, I smell Pacers. Yeah, that's the problem with, because that's the thing. Like I was just saying before, U.S. cities were made for people, and the thing is that trams and streetcars here in America came up at a time where the cities were made around people, and they worked for that. They only stopped at emergencies, or they even stopped in the middle of the street because you had people that just wanted to get up on the streetcar. So you would have like somebody in the middle of the street, the streetcar would keep going. Somebody just hailed the streetcar would stop, and they just get on the tram, and it would just keep on going. Or they'd stop at the stops. Okay, so it was very much like a circulator that just kept on going around the cities and got people around. Now when the streetcar and the trams have come back in this day and age, it's a whole different America. No more are people now the number one objective of cities, of catering to people. It's now become scaled for automobiles. So that's really a big reason of that. All right, guys. There are still some. There's the two newer ones that are being used, the toggle trains. But I don't see those lasting as long as they were. Yeah, Kawasaki has made trains for the USA, but I'm talking about like the trains that they make over for Japan or way ahead of the ones like the ones over here in the United States. They basically give us like bargain bin versions of whatever they make. Also, do know that Kawasaki does make, or they do make some of the parts and some of the Shinkansens in Japan. All right, so I'm still correct on that. They do make for MTA as well. It could branch out for more cities in the United States. All right, guys. I think we're going to end it over there. That is all for us for today. Thank you so much for coming on board. So we had a look into the into Amtrak, into the new infrastructure bill, and the updates on that. So yeah, and don't bring your cats on American Airlines because they'll lose them. Or they'll duct tape you if you start losing your stuff. And make sure Andrew Cuomo does not go on Frontier Airlines. So that's what we come up with these lessons for today. So thank you all for coming on board on this wild ride. We will see you all next time. Take care, and God bless.